the trade and industry stakeholders through the mechanism of cooperation, forum, tripartite technical experts group, and project coordination committee have succeeded in undertaking effective steps to keep Straits of Malacca and Singapore, also known as SOMS, open and safe for traffic. India has contributed in this mechanism also. There have been projects where we have contributed in the project removal of wrecks in traffic separation scheme. In that, India conducted a hydrography course on bathymetric and wreck-related aspects for personnel from 3 littoral states in the Naval Hydrographic School at Goa in 2010. Then we also contributed for another project, setting up of tide, wind, and current measurement, where we contributed about 1.7 million US dollars in addition to technical assistance. Then we regularly contribute to AIDS to navigation workshop, where we make a contribution of around 50,000 US dollar. Then as far as capacity building is concerned, in a workshop, AIDS to navigation workshop was organized for personnel of 3 littoral states along with the NIOR states. So now I will focus on the India's part, how India is involved in making this safety mechanism more viable, more effective, more positive. India is party to all the convention and codes such as SOLAS, COLREG, STCW. It regularly participates in the International Maritime Organization meeting, and that needs no proof. DG Shipping was mentioning that India has already forwarded a paper in the Maritime Safety Committee of IMO related to floating armory, which does affect the maritime security of the region. India has also been consistent participant in the ASEAN Regional Forum, coming to the regional forums on maritime safety. We co-chaired along with Philippines on ARF workshop on best practices in implementation of navigational instruments. Then we also hosted under the IORA fora, meeting of experts for maritime security and safety. Then coming to the next one, bilateral maritime dialogue. We have bilateral maritime dialogue with 6 countries. And when this dialogue is conducted, maritime safety is also on the agenda of this dialogue, where we do discuss the issues of concern, then best practices, standard operating procedures, the incidents which have taken place, what are the lessons to be learned. These issues are given focus in this dialogue also. Then white shipping information. Yes, just 2 minutes more. To augment maritime domain awareness in the region, India has entered into white shipping agreement with 18 countries. And we have plans to reach this figure to 35 countries, because MDA is as a very important facet, and if a better maritime domain awareness is there, then it will lead to the maritime safety. These are the number of countries with which India has already entered into white shipping agreement. White shipping agreement is basically exchange of data pertaining to mercantile fleet, so that you are aware what is happening at sea. Then we have a very vibrant national maritime domain awareness mechanism, where we collate data from all these sources, like LLIT was mentioned by DG Shipping. In addition, we have AIS, satellite, coastal radars, and then all this data comes to Information Management and Analysis Center. What India is planning to develop is what was mentioned, that Singapore has got an international Information Fusion Center, which is international, where the international liaison officers are there. We have also plans to set up such a center in India, and with that white shipping exchange in place, we'll be able to disseminate this data to littoral countries to have better awareness, better situational awareness. We also intend giving MDA training to these countries. So that is how we are contributing in the capability building as far as maritime safety is concerned. Then we are providing coastal surveillance radar system to Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Maldives, and Seychelles, so that the data comes. The data will come to the Information Fusion Center, which can be disseminated. This is the area, search and rescue area of India, and Indian Coast Guard coordinates in behalf of India. Way ahead, the collective action, that we must have the proper procedures in place, proper conventions in place, code, SOLAS, STCW was mentioned by me, so that must be in place. In fact, collective action also pertains to once the disaster has taken place, search and rescue. MS-370 accident was a wake-up call for us, and that is why search and rescue is very important, and that needs a focused attention. That's why in the very beginning I said the more focus is given to maritime security, but this time we give to safety also. Capacity building and capability enhancement, I have said we must provide to the countries in the need of it. Collaborative effort in the form of maritime domain awareness, and constructive engagement must be there to develop this mechanism. Blue economy is very important. In fact, our Prime Minister said that the blue wheel in the national flag represents the blue economy. That must be said, and we feel that maritime safety is one of the important pillars of the blue economy. I have finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commodore Nishant Kumar. I think you have highlighted the importance of collaborative mechanism, collective effort to address several challenges pertaining to maritime safety, and you showed the instances, how serious they are. So I think this really brings to light what kind of problems we have with respect to maritime safety and how we should be dealing with them. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Basiline Aranjo Diaz. He is originally from East Timor. He is now currently working as the Deputy Minister for the Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs in Indonesia. And he is an author also. Plus, he has been working for Indonesian migrant workers as well as for fishermen's welfare. So very checkered life and career. You have the floor, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I have to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this very respectful workshop. But before I start, actually, I have a confession to make. The reason why, when I read the terms of reference, I only read the title. The title says, Safety and Diplomacy. For people like us who work in the transportation world, when we talk about safety, it is like the issues that previous speakers were talking about. So we talk about SOLAS, and in SOLAS also include maritime security, ISPS code, SOLAS chapter 12.2. And then maybe if you want to enlarge, we can talk about queues, Convention on Code of Unplanned Encounters at Sea for warships, or we can talk about COLREG, as the previous speaker was talking about. And if we want to expand a little bit, we'll talk about issues of maritime environment covered under the IMO. Then I was thinking, like, if all of these speakers will talk about safety issues, then we should talk about SOLAS Convention and other related conventions about safety, which is one part of, or one of the world of transportation. And then I tried to reread. I tried to reread the request that were asked to us for this session. And then I found out that we are asked to talk about at least 3 issues. One is safe use of oceans and seas. And then one of the requesters was talking about man-made threats. And then the request was talking also, was trying to cover the issues of terrorist attacks, armed robberies, and etc. And then also a request how the forces in Asian countries and India, how to cooperate. And then I try to sift. So my presentation is not talking about safety per se under the IMO regulations, or solely about safety in fishing sector under the FAO regulations, but I try to combine the issues, and I will cover my presentation on the issue of safe use of oceans and seas, and then I will talk about the threats and challenges to the safe use of oceans and seas. So the objective of my presentation is how to explore possibilities for cooperation between ASEAN and India to address issues of safe use of oceans and seas in the region. And the structure of my presentation would be, I will do a global overview of issues around protection of marine resources and environment, the aspects of ocean governance, a way to safeguard the oceans and the seas, emerging threats to marine resources and environment, a perspective from Indonesia, overcoming the threat of IUU fishing, overcoming the issue of marine litter with specific focus on marine plastic debris and abandoned, lost, and otherwise discarded fishing gears, overcoming the issue of transboundary oil pollution originating from fixed oil platforms, and then way forward. Well, every country, I think, is the same. We start with leaders' commitment, what they commit, what they want to do, and then we at the level below, we follow what their promises are. So in Indonesia, when we have this actual president, before on his inauguration, he said, we have to strive to restore Indonesia as a country with maritime power. The oceans, the seas, the straits, and the bays are our future. We have been turning our backs on them for far too long. Now is the time to restore all until we achieve Jala Seva Jayamahe. In our seas, we are triumphant. Jala Seva is Indian, India, yeah. Yeah. So this is a commitment from my president. And then also, my president chose a very good president, a very good minister. I think most of you know who she is. So she is Minister Susi Pujiastuti. She is very known in Indonesia for sinking vessels, so sinking fishing vessels. And even now in television, sinking vessels. Yeah. So even now in Indonesia, when people are making joke of her, she said, no, if you make joke of me, I will sink you. If for kids, if you don't eat, even if you don't eat, I will sink you. If you don't study, I will sink you. So it's very good. It's very popular in Indonesia now, but it's very good. So we have a very strong leader. So at FIO coffee meeting, what she said is our global fishing fleet is 2 to 3 times larger than what the oceans can sustainably support. In other words, people are taking far more fish out of the ocean than can be replaced by those remaining. IUU fishing and fisheries crime are not just Indonesia's problem, or Asia's problem, or Africa's problem, or any other particular countries. Rather than it has become the world's problem. Because let me remind you, we all have one world, one ocean to protect. And I was with her at the time at the coffee meeting in 2016, and I remember the Director General of WFO telling to the audience that Indonesia is prompting us with some unpredicted findings. For example, when Madame Suzy was trying to explain about transshipment, things that were out of discussion maybe at the FAO level at that time. For example, Madame Suzy was telling, hey, Excellency, when I find some fishing activities, committing crimes at sea, I try to call, I don't know what to call. I try to call FIO, I don't know which division of FIO. FIO should I call? So that's the way how she tried to explain that we have some situations that needs to be addressed. Well, at the global arena, we all are aware that billions of people worldwide, billions of people worldwide, especially the world's poorest, rely on healthy oceans to provide jobs and food, underscoring the urgent need to sustainably use and protect these natural resources. Oceans contribute 1.5 trillion annually in value added to the overall economy. Fisheries and aquaculture assure the livelihoods of 10 to 12% of the world's population, with more than 90% of these employed by the captured fisheries working in small-scale operations in developing countries. Fisheries produce roughly 167 million tons of fish and generated over $148 billion in exports. And the UN Secretary General made a report on the development of SDGs 14. Global trends point to continued deterioration of coastal waters owing to pollution and eutrophication. Ocean acidification is closely linked to shifts in the carbonate chemistry of the waters, which can lead to a significant weakening of the shells and skeletons of many marine species. Studies of marine acidity at open ocean and coastal sites around the world have indicated that current levels are often outside pre-industrial bounds. Studies of marine acidity at open ocean and coastal sites around the world have indicated that current levels are often outside pre-industrial bounds. It's a repetition, sorry. Overfishing reduces food production, impairs the functioning of ecosystems, and reduces biodiversity